Welcome back, class 9. This is day 7. We are learning the heart of the tree. I told you I would come back with more questions, but before that, let me clarify the learning process of a poem. The first thing that you have to do is to copy the poem out a couple of times on a sheet of paper. Say the poem over and over again. Don't get frustrated if you forget the lines, and you be weird to practice it on mirrors and walls. And make it a habit to memorize poems, then your interest for learning a poem gets multiplied automatically. You can indeed arrest the attention of your teacher, colleagues, or an audience with your elaborate quotes from a poem anytime, anywhere. Reading a poetry is like digging for treasure. The poet usually does not come right out and tell you things. The author wants you to figure it out. Note down the word, figure it out. Read it again, looking for things like figurative languages, like rhyming patterns, repeated words, metaphors, similes, and other words that stand out to you. Does it make sense? Does the poem make sense? And what is the message of the poem? If the poem is hard to understand, put it down and go back to it another time. Most of all, have fun. We can reread the poem to find out the hidden meanings, and this is the fun part, like being a detective. As I said in my previous class, the title has a metaphor in it. Metaphor is a very common literary device which is used by all the poets in most of the poems. Metaphor is an implied comparison between two different things where there is a point of similarity. One shallow reading will force you to conclude that the poem is all about the usefulness of the tree. But in reality, throughout the poem, the poet has tried to prove the greatness of the man who plants a tree. To fulfill his aim, the poet has talked of mainly three different kinds of achievement that I discussed with you in the previous class. Keeping the environment beautiful, and the man helps the future generations, and the man performs his duty to his fellow men. And thus he contributes to the nation's growth by planting a tree out of his civic sense. Now the poem ends with the lines giving a hint at the title, a nation's growth from sea to sea stirs in his heart who plants a tree. This last line is very important as it shows the man's heart, his feelings, dreams and wishes behind planting a tree. He has got a bigger heart to love his neighbors and his nation unconditionally. And here is the point of similarity between that man and a tree. A tree gives us many useful things and helps in many ways to keep the earth habitable. It does all these unconditionally without expecting anything in return, as if out of its love to the nature, to the earth. And the man who plants a tree has also got the same, the heart of the tree. That is why the title is just and apt for the poem, and that's why I said the metaphor in the title, and that's why the title is justified. In this poem, a device called hyperphora is used. Hypophora. It's a poetic technique where a poet raises a question and then immediately provides an answer to that question. Commonly, a question is asked in the first paragraph and then the paragraph is used to answer the question. Why do you think the poet uses this technique in this poem? It is to emphasize the theme and to make it extraordinary. It is not just an act of planting a tree. It is to make you read in a different sense. He presents things as if they are unknown and very new, and it is quite true and very relevant to the present scenario where the lands meant for cultivation are occupied, bought and sold for construction. The urge for urbanization forces the man to construct more and more buildings, but very few realize that we actually dig a grave for mankind by doing so. Thus, the poet wants us to realize that though it is a simple act to plant a tree, it becomes noble and subtle. Planting a tree is next to nothing. He who plants a tree also plants thousands of invisible virtues as well. The poet has used alliteration in many places to add to the rhythm of the poem. Repetition of the consonant sounds at the beginning or stressed syllables of words is called alliteration. What does he plant who plants a tree? Plant, plant. You see? P. He plants a friend of sun and sky. Sun and sky. S. Then comes home and heaven. H. You try to find more alliterations from the poem. Now comes the personification. The poet personifies the tree when he calls it a friend of sun and sky. Personification means giving the human attributes to something which is not human. So the tree is compared as a friend of sun and sky. It is lifted to the position of a friend. As I told you, metaphor is the implied comparison between two different things. The flag of breeze is free, the shaft of beauty towering high, or examples of metaphor. The leafy branches are compared to a flag and the stem is compared to a beautiful shaft. I hope all of you know about the rhyming scheme. The rhyming scheme of this poem is A, B, C, in each stanza. Find out the literary devices in the following phrases. Number 1, the heart of the tree. Number 2, unborn eyes. Number 3, who in the hollow of his hand. Number 4, fade and flush. Number 5, sun and sky. Number 6, he plants a home to heaven high. I want to wind up by saying the poet's use of simple diction, alliteration, metaphors, and a load of visual images, personification, etc. lend the poem a unique beauty of its own. Thank you.